figured out that, oh, wow, it's not just one gene, one problem. It's not just one gene, one supplement. It doesn't work that way. There's interaction there that you have to take into account. And so when our team in Albuquerque, New Mexico started playing around with this, and we found a way to design nutritional programs around genetics and turn on not only brain chemistry, but turn on energy production, histamine breakdown, detoxification, nitric oxide production and breakdown, or cardiovascular system stuff, and methylation, and the immune system. So everything started to work correctly when we looked at people's health through this genetic lens. And so one of them, again, I'm pretty passionate about the brain chemistry part of it because I struggled for so long. And now I live in Happyville here because I take specific nutrients that not only balance the vitamin D receptor, but balance the other genes that I have. So it's like we design a multiple vitamin around your genetics, and not just any multiple vitamin will do it. You have to have like the specific right nutrients so that you don't turn on pathways that you shouldn't, and you turn on pathways that you should, so to balance the body. So it's very precise nutrition.
Namaste, beautiful souls. I'm Shilpa, and you're tuned into the Omni Mindfulness Podcast, a sanctuary for spiritual entrepreneurs. As a holistic mindfulness coach and social marketing strategist, I'm here to guide you on a transformative journey. On this show, we explore captivating stories and provide practical tools that deepen your connection with your authentic self. Through the personal and professional narratives of remarkable individuals, we expand our consciousness and ignite the spark of possibility. Each season, I curate content that empowers you to create a holistic lifestyle encompassing spirituality, mindfulness, energy awareness, and mindset. Join me as we engage in conversations with experts in their respective fields and share solo casts from yours truly, all aimed at supporting you and relaxing, revitalizing, resetting your body, mind, and spirit. I'm your host and the visionary behind Omni Mindfulness. So what if just one story had the power to shift the trajectory of your life? What if you could become an instrument in helping others realize their true selves? And what if your soul's higher purpose lies in experiencing the joy of Omni Mindfulness? Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your story. Welcome to Season 8 of the Omni Mindfulness Podcast. During this exciting season, we delve deep into the power of mindset. In October, join us as we explore Happy Mind. Is happiness an inside-out job? We'll explore the concept of happiness from various perspectives, ranging from DNA and brain health to mindfulness practices. Moving into November, it's all about conscious connections. Loneliness can be an epidemic, especially during the holidays. Let's understand the art of forming meaningful connections. And in December, we wrap up 2023 with the theme Embodied Awareness. Discover how to connect your body, mind, and spirit for a holistic approach to life. Stay tuned for thought-provoking conversations, expert insights, and transformative stories. It's a season you won't want to miss. And up next is Dr. Ann Dunn. Dr. Dunn is the author of the book Wholistic Kinesiology and Perfect Health in Paradise, CEO of MyHappyGenes, innovator of Holistic Kinesiology and Holistic Methylation, teacher and lecturer. For over 30 years, she has practiced natural medicine research and taught her groundbreaking techniques to hundreds of individuals who, like her, are on a quest to find an alternative solution to allopathic medicine. Dr. Dunn began her career in the natural health industry after a long bout of ill health, which drove her to seek an alternative healing method. The results she experienced piqued her interest in kinesiology, and she decided to study and learn this amazing technique herself. She eventually developed her own technique, combining anatomy, physiology, emotional work, bodywork, and nutrition to create holistic kinesiology. Kinesiology. Since then, she branched out into studying genetic variants and their effect on our health, our brain, and our mood. She teaches practitioners around the world how to interpret genetic tests and design nutritional programs to make the most of your genetic potential. She recently began a project to help the world become happier and healthier by making the most of their genetic potential called MyHappyGenes.com. Her philosophy is to treat the person as a whole being, not just a collection of parts and symptoms. And without further ado, the founder of MyHappyGenes.com, Dr. Ann Dunn. Dr. Dunn, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, Shilpa. I really appreciate it. I look forward to a conversation with you and your audience.
Wonderful. I became aware of you at I believe it was the Energy Summit. It was called the Energy Summit?
Yeah. I was invited to speak there by a good friend of mine who's, one of the organizers. And at first I was like, I don't know if this is a good fit, but really it is, because way back many years ago, one of the topics that I did a big lecture on was called biochemical nirvana. And so I really kind of like focused my talk on that. And there's a lot of dovetailing between biochemistry and mindfulness and what I call nirvana,
Yes, and somebody did mention that even at that summit about the chemicals that are produced based on meditation. If you do it a certain number of minutes over a certain course of time, that your body starts sending chemicals to your brain.
Yeah, that's true. I think though it's difficult for some people. Some people really struggle with the ability to even sit down to meditate. And there's a certain genetic variant that keeps adrenaline in our system, and it causes these people to really have a hard time. They're usually ADD, or they're just stressed. Their body's in a state of stress all the time. So it's particularly difficult for that kind of person to really settle down and get into a meditative state. I laugh because they're always checking their watch, and they're thinking about their laundry they could be doing, or they got to run some errands and they got to do that. So their brains are doing this, but it's biochemical. And so it takes them a whole lot more, a lot more focus and a lot more attention to meditating to get there, to really kind of get into a relaxed state, to get those neurochemicals balanced. So they struggle a little bit more. And other people who are struggling with even getting, dopamine and serotonin going into their brains can also have difficulty because they're so mired in their thoughts of maybe past trauma or depression or whatever they're feeling at the moment. Those thoughts kind of intrude a lot more than somebody whose brain chemistry is balanced, who can just sit down and get into they're just into that mindfulness, and they're paying attention to their body and they're breathing, and it's easy for them to get into that state. I think it's really a big help if they can get their brain chemistry balanced first, and then bam, their meditation is just phenomenal.
And as you mentioned, if those who have gone through some kind of trauma where their neuroplasticity, their brains has been rewired maybe from a young age to feel that trauma, and it affects their meditation. But that's maybe in that one lifetime would happen to them. What about the genetics of how one's, I would say, state of happiness occurs?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. So when let me back up a little bit and introduce who I am for a second and tell you how I kind of got here, and how the genetics kind of played a role in my own health, my own mental health, really. So I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and I'm a functional medicine practitioner. So I had a really successful practice for many, many years in Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing nutrition, doing emotional work, doing chiropractic, and whatever modality, the patient wanted. And, was very successful with that. But there were some things that were bothering me. One of them was my own health, my own mental health. I struggled every day with trying to be happy, just trying to get my mood up. And as we've talked about, I had a pretty severe childhood of trauma and various things that happened to me that I thought that was the reason why I was depressed. It's easy for us to say, oh, I'm depressed because, I had some abuse as a child or whatever. And so I thought that's why. I thought that's why I was depressed. And as you know, having people come up to you and say, just think happy, just be positive, just meditate, it's annoying because if we hadn't thought of that, as if we hadn't thought about that, but we can't maintain that, we can do it for a few minutes and think positive thoughts and do affirmations, but it doesn't stick. And so I struggled, I would come home at night and nobody really knew that I was depressed. It was something I just put on a happy face and got through my day and raised my child. I was a single mother, but underneath, it was like this shame, why can't I just be happy? A lot of people have bad things happen to them. A lot of people have bad childhoods or trauma or whatever. Why can't I just be happy? What's the matter with me? So there's this guilt, this shame, and a lot of people, I think, struggle with this and they hide it. And I was one of those. And the other thing I was dealing with was chronic fatigue syndrome. And so that didn't help either. I'd always have to do caffeine or something to get through the day and get my energy up. And I thought, well, I'm missing something. There's a piece of the puzzle that's missing. And I kept looking and looking, and it wasn't diet, it wasn't nutrition, it wasn't meditation for me, it wasn't positive thinking, it wasn't emotional work, it wasn't counseling. It's not in my paradigm to go do antidepressants. I just won't go there. But I knew there was a reason for it. And so I was always hunting. And long story short, this really led me down the path to looking at genetics as a source of what, wondering what, maybe it's in my genes, maybe I inherited it and it's always going to be there with me because it's genetic. That was my thinking. And that's a lot of people's thinking is like, oh, sucks to be you inherited it, so therefore you're going to struggle with it the rest of your life. But it's not true. The more we know, the more that we have done research into epigenetics and understanding how we can affect the physiology of our bodies, the more that we understand that we can modify those risk factors. And so when I got my genes tested, I did it through 23andMe, and I put it through a sort of template. And I started looking at just a few of the genes that I had. And one of them was the vitamin D receptor. And it turns out that I have what's called a homozygous variant there, which means that, if you get one gene from mom, one gene from dad, and both of those genes are a variation from the normal code for the vitamin D receptor, then you're homozygous for a variant there, which reduces your ability to absorb vitamin D by about 70%. And so, in natural medicine, we think of vitamin D as more like involved in bone health, and that's about it. We know it's the sunshine vitamin, but the more I looked into it, the more I realized it's critical for activating other genes that are involved in making neurotransmitters. So no wonder, I couldn't make dopamine. I can't make serotonin correctly because of my genes. And it has a lot to do with your immune system, how you activate your T cells to fight infections. And so I was like, wow, okay, it was starting to make some sense to me. And so as a kinesiologist, I started to play around with, I wonder how we can modify that receptor so that it works, so that it accepts vitamin D. And I found the answer. And it changed my life, because I started taking the cofactors that help that receptor work better, the nutrients, specific nutrients for it. And then my body could absorb vitamin D, and bam, my brain chemistry changed. And I became happy for the first time in my life at age 55.
Yeah.
And
what did you start taking that helped?
The cofactors for the vitamin D receptor, which are vitamin K2 and A. But I caution you, don't run out because you're depressed. Don't run out and get vitamin K2 and A and D, because you have to know what you're doing downstream. You're going to start up certain pathways. And this is the key to understanding that you have to look at all the genetic variants together. Because once you do that, once you start up your vitamin D receptor and get your brain chemistry going, you better make sure that you can break it down. Otherwise, you're going to send yourself into anxiety or irritation or agitation, because you need to be able to make sure that you don't have a genetic variant in your ability to break down those neurotransmitters. So it's understanding that interplay of genes. That's where we figured out that, oh, wow, it's not just one gene, one problem. It's not just one gene, one supplement. It doesn't work that way. There's interaction there that you have to take into account. And so when our team in Albuquerque, New Mexico started playing around with this, and we found a way to design nutritional programs around genetics and turn on not only brain chemistry, but turn on energy production, histamine breakdown, detoxification, nitric oxide production and breakdown, or cardiovascular system stuff, and methylation, and the immune system. So everything started to work correctly when we looked at people's health through this genetic lens. And so one of them, again, I'm pretty passionate about the brain chemistry part of it because I struggled for so long. And now I live in Happyville here because I take specific nutrients that not only balance the vitamin D receptor, but balance the other genes that I have. So it's like we design a multiple vitamin around your genetics, and not just any multiple vitamin will do it. You have to have like the specific right nutrients so that you don't turn on pathways that you shouldn't, and you turn on pathways that you should, so to balance the body. So it's very precise nutrition.
And this is specific for the brain, or
not specific, but and the brain. It's specific for everything. It's for, like I say, energy production and weight management, metabolism. It's for inflammation and the immune system, and circulation and cardiovascular system health. It's for detoxification. It's for allergies and histamine responses, leaky gut. All of those things really respond to looking at the problems through the genetic lens, which had never really been done before. And so when we address things in that way, it really gets to the root cause of those things. And as a functional medicine practitioner for years, I was practicing what I call whack-a-mole medicine. Like this person would have a virus and have to go after that. This person has leaky gut, we got to go after that. This one has allergies, we got to go after that. I don't do that anymore. We get the body doing it, and we do that through understanding the precise nutrition that their body needs. They might need higher levels of selenium and lower levels of zinc, or higher levels of B12, lower levels of folic acid. We dial in their nutrients precisionally. Is that a word? Precision?
Yeah. And now, is it in addition to the supplements and the interactions of the supplements? I think I've heard you say nutrition. So would it be also like, hey, Shilpa, you need a kale salad, and in addition to more such and such?
Yes, very much so. So we look at your diet. So there are certain genes, as you can imagine. Think about the lactase enzyme. Your body has a genetic code for making lactase, and that's the enzyme that breaks down lactose, which is milk sugar, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't make that lactase enzyme correctly, you're going to be lactose intolerant. It's the same kind of thing that's happening in the body. And so we look at, is gluten good for you, bad for you? Is caffeine good for you, bad for you? Is alcohol generally not good for you, but some people can tolerate it better than others? Nightshades, intermittent fasting. We look at lifestyle factors as well. There are genetic variants that govern whether or not those things are good or bad for you. And so we recommend here's your best diet, lower in carbs, higher in protein, lower in fats. Or for some people it's higher in fats and lower in protein. Others it's higher in complex carbs and lower in fats and protein. So it's very individual. And it's governed by, how your ancestors thrived and survived during times of starvation or stress in their environments. If we think about like the Irish potato famine, those people that survived that were able to survive because they hold on to calories very easily. And those people that couldn't, those skinny people, gone. So now we've selected for, in that population, a gene that holds on to calories, which is not very much fun, in our day and age, because we have a lot more calories. So it's a lot more than just brain chemistry, and we do get precision with our diet as well, and supplementation and lifestyle. And so when you do meditation, when you do mindfulness practices, it actually, uses less resources and conserves a lot of resources and helps your mitochondria to repair and work more efficiently. So it's hugely effective at helping with genetic variants that are potentially going to cause problems for you in the brain chemistry area or other areas of the body, or lead to health risks down the line, if that makes sense.
It does. And when you mentioned that you noticed a difference once you made that switch to the appropriate supplementation, nutrition for your body, and I forget exactly how you expressed it, but there was some more equanimity, perhaps more happiness. How did you, I don't know, how did you feel? Like, what was Delta? Like, when did you know, like, when I wasn't there, this is how it felt, but wow, this is how it's supposed to feel?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because when we're in that state and we're used to being in that state, we don't know that that's not normal. That every day I kind of have to work on my attitude and listen to positive podcasts or what, just constantly sort of build myself up, build up my attitude. And like we talked about briefly, there were times when it just was overwhelming, especially right around my period. It was like, whoa, my hormones are out of control and my brain chemistry is off and things are just, blown up out of proportion. When there's a full moon, sometimes that could affect it too.
Oh my
Like you're,
goodness.
you're doing this, but you're down here at a low level, kind of trying to manage. You buy a new pair of shoes and you're up for a second, and then you're back down, you know what I mean? And so when I got my brain chemistry balance, boom, my baseline is here. It's not like, yeah, it's more like, content, shall I say. I'm not struggling all the time for trying to be happy and not having to like work at it all the time. I'm just here in what I call Happyville. It's a much better place to live, and I don't have to think about it anymore. Not to say I don't have this, I had, my mother just died and I went through a period of down, but then I bounce right back up and I stay here, for the most part, not, and my ups and downs are here, but I'm not down here where my threshold, where it was kind of pretty low all the time. So that was the difference. And when my patients came back in, it was interesting, because they weren't, these were people who are depressed or anxious or irritable or ADD or addicted to things. And they're just reported this this feeling of contentment. And that feeling when you meditate, right? You're like, oh, everything is fine. Everything's good in the world and everything's at peace and I'm okay. And that's my baseline now.
And does it also help you with better sleep?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because our neurotransmitters, our serotonin is made into melatonin. So if you can't make serotonin, you're not going to make melatonin. So it's definitely going to affect your sleep as well. So understanding the pathway, tryptophan is made into 5-HTP, that's made into serotonin, that's broken down into melatonin. So all of those require enzymes that are genetically determined. So if you've got genetic variants anywhere along the way, you're going to find a backup or a difficulty in a particular area. So it's fascinating when we look at the physiology through that lens of biochemistry governed by genetics. And once we can correct those and get like that specific nutrient, the body corrects itself. And it's kind of beautiful.
So as a vegetarian who had an Indian diet, and my ancestors had an Indian diet, and now it's sort of all over the place with my American husband, but I but I eat healthy. And so that report from the genetics report would speak to also addressing or fine-tuning the nutrition.
Yes, it would. And, there are different reasons why people become vegetarian. And if if it's been like generation after generation, often you lose the ability to even make hydrochloric acid to digest meat, or make proteases correctly. And making sure that you get proper combinations of things to get your amino acids, to a whole level is critical, because those are precursors to neurotransmitters. So, the tryptophan, tyrosine, those are two that are specifically tied to making serotonin and dopamine. So if you don't get enough of those neurotransmitters, or those amino acids, I should say, you won't make your neurotransmitters correctly. So that's an important aspect to look at too.
And the name of your group or company that does this testing and helps people, it's called MyHappyGenes. Can you share a little bit about the inspiration around that name?
Yeah, it's called MyHappyGenes. And, it's really, we started out because I was so passionate about brain chemistry. We started out with thinking, there were a lot of different genetic testing companies on the market, and we wanted our niche to be brain chemistry. And so that's where we started. And we realized it was much more than that, but I'm very passionate about those people who are struggling with depression, anxiety, ADD, PTSD, addictions, etc. And I was teaching doctors around the country how to do this work. The holistic methylation is what we called it. And I used muscle testing and, various other techniques to get the body balanced. But I thought, wow, I can wear myself out traveling around the country, or I can create a software program that would do it for us. And so I decided that I could help a lot more people if I could get the software program to do what I was doing in the clinic. And so again, it's not one gene, one issue. It's an algorithm that combines your genetics and what symptoms you're experiencing, or your epigenetics, what's expressing, and your biochemistry. So it's a triangle of information. It's going to take a pretty robust algorithm to triangulate those things and look at, like you said, should I take A, D, and K? Well, yes, but only if you take these things to balance what happens downstream. And so the software program does that for you. It calculates all of that. And then you take a questionnaire and say, like, I'm having these symptoms and not these, and blah, blah, blah. And then it designs a supplement program based on that. So I just thought we could help a lot more people that way.
Yeah, I just like a question popped in my head. Most of my 20s and 30s, even early 40s, were spent dealing with the menstrual cycle and the havoc it would ensue on my hormones. And it would always be like this out of body experience. Like, I'd be like, that's not Shilpa anymore.
I know. It's like, God, I'm a crazy person.
But
the men in our lives are like, what the? I'm like, you parted your hair differently. You don't love me anymore.
I would watch a commercial, I'd be sobbing.
I know, right?
I wonder if some of this could even help with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I know some women didn't have any PMS issues, and I was on the other end of the spectrum.
We can see there's a slider in the report that shows you that you're susceptible to PMS or PMDD.
Oh, really?
It looks at the genes that are associated with it. Yeah.
Does it show you also for perimenopause, any data there?
No, because that's it's a normal kind of situation in the body, but it'll show you that you might have hormonal you might have more difficulty going through it, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can show you what to do, and once you keep your body balanced, you can kind of just ease through those situations without as much trouble, which is amazing. To go
that
through.
Is amazing. Now,
I call it mental pause. But.
Well, I'm definitely following up with you on that one. So one of the questions I have, and we've discussed this, is my husband deals with chronic migraines. And that was the catalyst for why I was so excited first after I listened to you at the summit, that if I could only learn just enough and get him to get tested. So perhaps you could speak to, have you dealt with patients with migraines?
Yeah, very much so. And in we have 5 reports that we get from that one DNA file. And the second report is on diet and lifestyle, but the third one is called MyHappyGenes. And it looks at what genes have you inherited that make you susceptible for cardiovascular disease, for autoimmune diseases, for COVID, for infections, et cetera. And one of the categories is migraine. There are definite genes associated with susceptibility to migraine. I had that too. That was a lot of fun. So I have a great heart for those people that deal with migraines. They're just awful. But I haven't had one in many, many years. As long as I keep my body chemistry balanced and my brain chemistry balanced, I'm not affected by it.
Interestingly enough, my husband just because of his personality, like he likes to be outdoors, but he goes for a beach walk almost every moment, every chance he can get. And I think part of it is dealing with also the vitamin D.
Yeah, that can really help for sure. That's a better way to get it, through the sunshine, which is
Through
really
the sunshine.
good. Yeah.
Also, can you share a little bit about overall, have you had people challenge saying, well, happiness is a state of mind, which is I've heard, or happiness only occurs from, and then fill in the blank.
From inside. Yeah, I I try to have compassion and understand their perspective, because there are some people that have never experienced what you and I have talked about. They've never experienced that deep down depression that you can't talk yourself out of. They don't understand unless you've really experienced it. I think it's hard to have compassion for it, because I've been with partners who were like that, like, come on, just pull yourself out, pull yourself up, man. It's like, just get out of it. If I could, I would have. I'm not dwelling in this. I'm not wallowing in it and enjoying it. This is not fun for me,
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of them understanding there are definite genetic variants that can cause it. And that's, where compassion can come in. And sometimes they need to be shown the science, and the science is very much there. And then they go, oh, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't understand, this is a real condition, just like having a medical condition would be, or having, MS or Alzheimer's or whatever. They have more compassion for that kind of thing than they do a mental health kind of imbalance. Not to say all mental health imbalances are due to brain chemistry imbalances. Sometimes, we need to have better friends, or we need to have a better situation, or we're in an abusive relationship and we need to get out of it. Those are situational things can definitely contribute to that. But I've seen too many times, when we get brain chemistry balanced, often that person will get out of that situation, or they feel okay with it. It's funny. I had one guy who was talking about his coworkers and how awful they were. Oh my God, they're just awful. They're always picking on me. I'm so miserable at work. And we got his brain chemistry balance, and he came back in. I said, how's it going at work? He goes, for some reason, people are a lot nicer to me now. And I don't know why. I mean, it's fine. I'm like, what? It changed his attitude about everybody around him, and therefore they were nicer to him, so it was like, it's kind of fascinating. When I run into people like that, I just go, okay, let's educate you a little bit about the differences in people's brains and how they work, and maybe work on your compassion a little bit. But
oh no, and I think sometimes what you're saying is, even if we are able to regulate through the supplementation, nutrition, then our perception of the world may change as well.
Totally. I had another guy who was, he had MS, but he came in and he's in a wheelchair, and his wife's, kind of pushing him into the office. And she accidentally hit the door jamb with his wheelchair. And he turns around and he's like, Emily, watch where you're going. And he just like rips into her. And we're both standing there like, whoa, way overreaction,
Yeah.
And she's like, her eyes are wide behind him, like, this is my life. This is this guy.
Oh man.
And so we put him on a program, and he came back in the next time. She wheels him in, and she didn't hit the door jamb that time, but she wheels him in, and he turns around and he says, thank you, hon. And I was like, and she's behind him going. And I said, how are you doing, Rob? And he's like, I don't know, about the same. And she's like,
that's funny. Like, they don't realize that they've changed, but
right. My wife is being a lot nicer to me. She's driving the wheelchair better. No, that's not what happened here. It was his attitude about the world that changed. Therefore, the world changed. And so it's
and different points, as I mentioned, like when it comes to hormonal stuff, I've regulated through intense workouts, extremely clean eating, and a whole host of things. But sometimes being that vigilant on everything is exhausting.
Exhausting. I know. I was there too, Shilpa. It's and you think I'm doing all the right things. What is the matter with me? Why
Well, if one slipped and the other slipped, next thing you know, it's like, so yeah, good to know. I'm excited. Now, did I already ask you the question about what my husband's concern was about privacy. Maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because I am very passionate about that, because, some other companies do not respect privacy, and they sell your data, your DNA information. And so when we first started the company, we were using them, and then, we had several people say, and I was realizing too, that I don't really want to be a part of that. And so we started using a private lab, and we started using a system where when you do your DNA test, you order your DNA kit, it comes to you, and then you do the swab. It's an easy little swab, and stick it in an envelope. It goes back to the lab with nothing but a barcode. That lab has no information on you whatsoever, just the barcode. And so the barcode comes back, and it's attached to your account in our system. Now, in our system, you can put any email you want, any name you want. You don't have to know personal data. We don't want to know. We don't want to be hacked, number one. And, we just don't want to have any sense that there's not privacy in the whole system. So they also get rid of your sample after 90 days. So there's no tracking of your information that way. They don't know who you are, and there's no tracking. I can't see your data. I can't get in and look at your data. Only you can, through your email and your password, can get into your account. And if I'm your practitioner, I can look at your data, but you've given me permission to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to protect your privacy all the way through, because I think it's a big concern going forward. We don't know, what they're doing with that data. Will they discriminate against you in the future because you have a specific genetic variant, or will they track? I don't know. I don't even want to speculate. I'm not kind of a paranoid person, but I am concerned that nefarious things could happen because of that. So I just don't want to contribute to it.
So if someone like myself or my husband were working with you, we would get the swab, the barcode would be matched to our appropriate ID via email, and then we would speak with you or someone in your organization.
Well, when you get your results back, it's instantly put into your account. So you get your mood and personality report immediately, once it comes back. So you can go in there and look at that. There's a lot of information in there, a lot of links to studies where we found that information on PubMed or SNPpedia. So everything is backed up by a good study showing that, that gene is associated with bipolar or schizophrenia or depression or whatever it is. And then so it comes back into your account, and it's only connected by that barcode and your email.
Mm-hmm.
So you log in, you get that. So there are 4 other reports that I mentioned that are available if you work with a practitioner. And the reason we did that was because there might be contraindications. Let's say you're on an antidepressant, or you're on other medications that are contraindicated by taking certain supplements. We didn't have, the bandwidth to really put all the medications into our software system. So we really wanted you to be under the care of a physician, a licensed healthcare provider that understands those contraindications for you. And so the other 4 are available through working with one of our practitioners. And we have practitioners all over the country that are trained in how to do this. So at last count, we had about 500 practitioners that I've trained in understanding genetics and methylation, and about 250 of those are signed up as MyHappyGenes practitioners, and more every day. So you just let us know, what area are you in, and we'll help you find a practitioner to work with you on the other reports.
Yes. And is this usually covered through insurance, or that's a whole nother story?
Well, I don't really know. I've looked into it a little bit, but I can't say I know for sure.
Yeah.
I know you can use an HSA card.
Mm-hmm.
You can use your health savings account, to pay for it. It does qualify under that. I'm not sure about the rest of it, to be honest. I have a sense that I imagine we could find some codes that would get it covered, but again, can't say I'm knowledgeable.
In that initial report, before you started working potentially with other practitioners for going deeper, that gives you just enough guidance saying, hey, maybe you should be on this kind of diet with these supplements?
No, it doesn't do that, because, again, we want you to be under the care of a physician. when they talk to you about it. So,
Okay.
yeah, to get those reports, you need to hook up to a practitioner to do that, unless you are a practitioner. And then
Oh, okay. Or can you hook up with your own practitioner and show them the report? Or
Yeah.
oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah, they can just sign up for an account. It's free for
Mhm.
any licensed healthcare provider can sign up for an account. And then they can go over them with you, order those reports for you and go over them with you. If they
Wonderful.
need support, we can give that to them. So yeah.
Any kind of words of wisdom for those who are curious and they know they've got things they'd like to work with? Like it could be, gosh, my migraine is really frustrating.
Yeah, I think maybe thinking about it in a different way, kind of understanding, having compassion for yourself, number one, that maybe it's not your fault. You're not doing this on purpose, because there's a lot of guilt and shame and thrown at us from other people too. But I think we do it to ourselves more than anything, like, why don't I have the willpower to do this, to overcome this? And just understanding that there might be more to the story. So that's number one, is just having a little, what I call genetic compassion, understanding that there might be reasons beyond you and your willpower that you are suffering from certain things.
Yeah.
And so that alone, to me, was very relieving, to know it wasn't really my fault. And number two, that there is hope for understanding that there are answers for these things, and they're simple, they're natural, and they're specific for you, that you are unique, and that therefore your healthcare is going to be unique, and your prescription for whatever energy awareness that you assign somebody. Some people are going to need that calming down energy. Other people are going to need that energizing energy. And so it's going to be unique for that person. And so understanding that not everybody's the same, that we all are going to need different ways to achieve that biochemical nirvana, or that, energy awareness or mindfulness, that there are different paths to it. And yours is different than everybody else's. So just honoring that, I guess.
Thank you. And I love the fact that you brought in so much compassion and your own vulnerability into it, because I feel like a lot of people who are going through things or listening to this will realize that they're not alone.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's not a fun place to be. And, as someone who's suffered from it for so long in silence, I'd like to have better discussions out there about mental health. And if we can get beyond the feeling shameful or feeling vulnerable, or allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and talk about it, I think there's going to be a lot more help for people going forward. So, yeah. So thank you for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I just have one last question, just kind of popped in my head when you brought up energy awareness. Have you noticed, and I believe I know what the answer is, but someone's rhetorical, but have you noticed a shift in your awareness of your energy and your ability to get things done with the regulation of, through the supplements, nutrition?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And when my body's in balance, I find that I can meditate, and I have a really good meditation. And when I can't do it, it's my trigger to say, something's off track here. So I'm out of balance. But yeah, everything works better. My energy is better. My mood is better. Everything just works better. So I get a lot more done, a lot more productive. And yeah, everything just falls into place. And I'm not struggling. We talk about being in the flow of things. And when you're out of balance, it feels hard. It feels like a struggle. It feels like, I got to do this work. I don't want to. I'm tired, but I got to do it. But when you're in balance and you're in the flow, it's like easy. It's like, I enjoy this. This is fun. This is interesting. And then we're also, with mindfulness, you're able to say, that's enough. I've done enough work. I need to rest. I need to sleep. I need to play. All of those things kind of come a little easier. It's funny, when you're off balance, you make yourself go and drive ourselves down into the ground. And and it's a kind of a vicious cycle. So yeah. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I mean, loads of incredible content here. Thank you so much. The show notes will include all the links to your MyHappyGenes and any information. I hope I can have you back in the future.
Thank you. I'd love to. And
Okay.
it's
Well,
good
thank
chatting
you.
with you.
It was good chatting with you. Have a great day.
Okay. Thanks, Shilpa.
Thanks for tuning in, sweet soul. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful for your kind review on Apple Podcast. Simply click on the link in the show notes to leave your lovely feedback and uplift our spirits. Your support means the world to me and helps our show thrive. So please show me your love and continue to practice Omni Mindfulness.